God bless you.
Welcome back. Thank you very much, Governor Kayode Fayemi. We will still be going back to Ekiti shortly to have a live conversation with him. To go on, the next person who is coming up is the Director General for the National Council for Disease, the National Center for Disease Control. But before we move to him, in the next 60 seconds, I quickly want to spell out the lineup that we have today. We're going to have the following governors and interact with them from their different states to give us situation reports on what's going on there and the things that they're doing to push back on this particular pandemic. The Vice Chairman of the National Governors Forum, the Governor of Sokoto State, Governor Aminu Tamboa, we will reach out to him in Sokoto. The Governor of Delta State, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. The Governor of Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule. The Governor of Kaduna State, Governor Nasser El-Rufai. The Governor of Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki. And of course, the Governor of our home state, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. And then we will have the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. All right, we will be moving to Abuja now to have a conversation with the Director General of the National Center for Disease Control, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwezu. Doctor, thank you very much for linking up with us this morning.
Hi, Pastor Yamade. I hope you can hear and see me.
Yeah, I can very clearly. First of all, I'd like to thank the Secretary to the Federal Government, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who is Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, also for helping to make this happen. And then we must be very grateful to you, sir, the work you have done, the knowledge you have put on the table, the pushback against this epidemic. I'm sure Nigerians are glad that you are where you are. All right, the first question we're going to ask is this. From what we have been hearing in foreign news media, it's clear that the rate of mortality we're having here in Nigeria is very low, and our rate of recovery seems to be much higher when compared with some countries like Italy, Spain, United States. What will you attribute to this development? Is it the demographics, or what exactly will you attribute this to?
So thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be on your show. It's actually the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. I know these acronyms are a little bit confusing in our context. Pastor Yamada, I think the first thing to say is, we've had just over 50 deaths, and, it seems to be a small number, but, every death is really of their loved one, and, it really is, there's a story and a life behind each of those individuals. And the other thing to say is, we're really at the beginning of this outbreak globally. I think the point where we will assess how many people died in Nigeria versus anywhere else, the time really will come maybe a year or two when we look back to the evolution of this outbreak. But, you can see that the outbreak comes in waves, and we are not sure where we are on our own trajectory at the moment. So I think it's early days to reach conclusions around mortality. What we're doing and working hard every day with every member of my team and many other people working across the country, especially at the state level, because it's actually at the state government level and their care facilities that are providing care for all those infected, is working very hard and very tedious work to make sure that we see that as many of people infected. This question on one note. Yesterday was Workers' Day, and we celebrated the work done by healthcare workers across the country, across the world. there's never been a time that it's more important to reflect on the career that healthcare workers have chosen, literally to save lives. And they're doing this at great risk to themselves and to their families. And this is really an opportunity to shout out to all of them and not to give up, to keep pushing, and to really persevere through this challenging time. Nigerians are counting on us and not to give up despite the challenges from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and all our partners and the federal government, the Presidential Task Force. We're working extremely hard to see that everyone has the personal protective equipment that they need. But it's a big and complex country. This is the honest reality. And it's not easy, but we will not stop. But as we celebrate the workers across the country working to keep people alive, we hope at the end of this outbreak to have a good story to tell around about mortality in Nigeria, and that the current situation with a relatively low case fatality ratio actually plays out at the end of the outbreak. But to make that happen depends on the hard work, the diligence, and the perseverance of healthcare workers today as we speak, beside hospital beds, looking for contacts, following up in the lab, testing samples, literally working 24 hours to keep us free from this disease and prevent more deaths.
All right, sir. I'm going to take this question here. I hope you can hear me.
I can.
All right, sir. What will you consider personally as the most difficult challenge in managing the spread of the virus in Nigeria?
One that is a tough question to answer. You know, we've been working on this outbreak for like 3 months now. You know, the challenges around how our health system is constructed generally, you know, the separation between state and federal, the fact that it's on the who to do what. So I think there'll be a lot of lessons to be learned after this around the fragmentation of our health system and how that provides a challenge when you come to an outbreak and you really need a command and control environment with clear leadership across government to drive the response. There's a challenge around just the logistics and supply chain issues. How do we get things first into the country that we need? And secondly, how do we get them across the country on time to the patients that need it and our hospitals that need it? So the challenges around, you know, our laboratory architecture. You know, we haven't built sufficient, we haven't paid sufficient attention in the 60 years of our independence to building a diagnostic architecture across the country. And COVID-19 is the most obvious example of this. But there are many more examples that we face every day. You know, when you see people with diagnosis of malaria and typhoid as one entity, and all sorts of dubious diagnoses being shared around the country. The underlying challenge is exactly the same as what we're seeing now with COVID-19, that we have failed collectively. When I say we, I'm not just referring to a small federal government, I'm talking about all of us, private sector, public, state government, local. We've failed to build a diagnostic infrastructure. You don't know what you're dealing with. You cannot manage those individuals. So now we're scrambling. And yes, we're building rapidly. We're scaling our lab every day. We're bringing in the reagents. You know, we're quickly ramping up our testing. But, you know, this is the underlying challenge. And when you have a big challenge like that, it's big. And you can guarantee the same level of access for someone in Sokoto to someone in Akwa Ibom. From Kwara to Yola. So really, the size and scale of Nigeria is our biggest strength, but also a big challenge. But, you know, on top of all of that, what I have experienced in the last few months, since I started working on this, is really incredible. I have seen leadership at the federal government side, on the PTF, among the government thought was possible. You know, I've attended meetings of the NGF, spoken to many of our governors, the governor of Lagos State, the governor of Kano State. It's incredible the amount of leadership that comes out in a crisis. And if we will end up in a better place. But we still have a challenging job to get ahead of all these loops. We have to work together. The Federal Ministry of Health and its leadership, the Honorable Minister, everyone has come together. And now we have to build on that momentum and make sure we don't fragment the response. We keep it to one response, as we've always done in a crisis, and not think about it as different pathways to answering the goals. There are many people coming up with great ideas and great solutions. I'm sure I've made 1,000 enemies in this response, but our principle, it has been and will continue to be, that we must stick to one response and make sure that we align and work together, even though our structure of government sometimes leads to various influences coming into our response. But once you're in a crisis, when you're at war, you can't have several commanders, you can't have several inputs of ideas. We have to have one unified response, and that's the responsibility of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control under the leadership of the ministry, with the new presidential task force giving us strategic advice and guidance on how to lead this for the country. So we'll continue to do our best and make sure we pull all the various forces together.
All right, sir. One more question, and I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in this question. It says, we have read the World Health Organization is racing to develop a vaccine. Does this mean until a vaccine is found, people will continue to practice social distancing, wearing masks, even when the lockdown is totally lifted? Can normal life, the person asks, be guaranteed this year?
So, we are faced with a difficult reality, and we are not unique in this. Every country is right now looking at the same challenge and how to get us back to some level of normality. But the reality is that we are going to live with COVID-19 for the next year at the very least. So we have to start thinking about how to live safely with COVID-19. And some of the changes that we will need to make are actually good things to have forever. The emphasis on hand washing, on sanitizers, on respiratory hygiene. My goal as the leader of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control is that we continue this forever, that we don't go back like we did post-Ebola to an era of not washing our hands. I mean, who would want that for his people? So we really want some of these measures to go on, because they not only will prevent COVID, they will prevent so many other diseases from spreading and ultimately lead us into a better future. Now, I understand some of the other limitations will be quite challenging for us, especially in Nigeria, because we're such a social people and a social country. The challenge of physical distancing. I prefer the words physical distancing to social distancing, because we're not asking people to be socially distant from one another. We're asking them just to be physically distant so that the virus cannot spread. But please use technology and whatever else to remain socially connected. In fact, to intensify your social connection, because we need that. The other thing is about mass gatherings. It will be a big challenge for us. But we have to try. These are things that we will have to do in the short term. It will be very challenging, and every business right now, every church, I know you are thinking about the same thing, how to manage your congregation in an era of COVID. Every religious gathering of any form, social gatherings, weddings, we really have to rethink how we do this in the short term. It's a sacrifice we will have to make as a people, as a country, to get over this. If you have a business, you have to think, if you're a restaurant, if you had a capacity of 50, how can I manage with 20 in the short term, knowing that in a year's time, we may be able to go back to normal business. So, yes, it will be a challenging time to carry out all these measures, to restrict travel, to stay on our own a bit. But this is a sacrifice we will have to pay. And the one thing is we are not alone in this. Everywhere across the world, even in the most advanced countries, the countries that we looked up to as the best scenarios in the world, they are facing the same challenges. There's no easy solution for them. There's nowhere to run to. So now is the time to build our country, despite the limitations, to find indigenous ways to solve these problems and to make our country recover quicker. And to do that, we need this short-term pain in order to gain the long-term opportunity of returning fully to a normal, social, rich, engaging life for which Nigerians are known for. But I'll end on this note. If there's one great thing that will come out of this, is that we reinforce some of the basic hygiene principles, hand washing, using sanitizers, and really ask everyone to take personal responsibility, collective responsibility and personal responsibility to do these things. So do it yourself, your church should do it, your school should do it, the market union, the union of road transport workers, every group and organization and group of people can take responsibility themselves for making sure these measures work. It's the only way we can avoid a bigger crisis in our country. And we will stand with you. The Presidential Task Force led by the Secretary of the Federal Government is standing with you, and I think no one else has shown greater leadership over this period than him, and really led the response in a way that has brought the country together. So let's hold together as a country as we go through this difficult time, especially with the states that are going through a harder time now than anyone else. People living in Kano need our support. People living in Lagos need our support because they are really at the heart of the pain being caused by this current outbreak.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for taking out your time. You're one of the busiest men in this country right now. We really appreciate this, and thank you once again for your work. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, and keep at it, and thank you, Nigerians, for all your hard work and perseverance over this period. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will go on a short break now, and then we will be back in about 2 minutes to speak with the governor of Kaduna State.